In this episode, if a nurse has a vial, and she drops it on the floor, the thimerosal on the floor is now a hazardous waste site, and you have to deal with that with OSHA protocols. So when I first started doing this, I was talking to a friend on the phone. He said, "Is it an anti-vax movie?" And I was like, was the first time I'd heard that term, and I was like, what does that mean? I hadn't heard it before. It's like, it was a name. It was like a pejorative. It comes down to dehumanizing people. If you dehumanize a person, you invalidate their opinion. The reason why it's called 50 cents a dose is because when they added thimerosal to the flu shot, it reduced the price of production by 50 cents per shot. So that would be a multi-dose vial. So they can use one vial to give like 10 people shots.
Hello and welcome to Health in Focus with Jacobus. I am your host, Jacobus Hollewijn. Do you like controversy? I love controversy. I enjoy it. Doesn't mean I always want to talk about controversy, but when controversy comes up, I don't mind mixing it up, learning about it. Today's topic is controversial for many people. It's about vaccines, inoculations, a vaccine program. We have been exposed to a lot of vaccines, especially since COVID started in early 2020. And there has been more controversy because of it about, is it good to take a COVID shot? Is it not good to take a COVID shot? You've seen all kinds of videos on the internet about people who have had side effects, or people who claimed it was the best thing that happened to them, and they're so happy that they got a free glass of beer by getting a shot, or they got a free something for simply participating in this. When it comes to vaccines, they have been around for several hundred years. Everything starts with an experiment. We try things out. However, over the decades and over the couple centuries, something big happened in 1986. President Ronald Reagan and the Congress, the 99th Congress, signed into law a bill in which the manufacturers of vaccines were actually not liable anymore because they had been involved in lawsuits for side effects or problems that people had with their children after they had been inoculated. So the manufacturing companies went to the president and to Congress and said, if you do not protect us, we're really trying to do the best we can here, we will take our business to other countries, and it will have a big effect on the economy in the United States. That's how they brought it. So what happened was something was signed into law, and I quote, "No vaccine manufacturer shall be liable in a civil action for damages arising from a vaccine-related injury or death associated with the administration of a vaccine after October 1, 1988. If the injury or death resulted from side effects that were unavoidable, even though the vaccine was properly prepared and was accompanied by proper directions and warnings." So in a way, what was being said is that vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. It was a law that was then passed, also approved by the Supreme Court at the time, and it has been known as such that vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. That has stirred a lot of controversy, a lot of pain, and we can see in the facts, and often they say, follow the science. The science has shown through the last 4 decades that families have been damaged since that time, that lives have been lost that may never have needed to be lost, and that people and children, and they're adults now, are carrying disorders that affect their relationships, that affect their digestive system, that affect their mind. So I hope you work with us through this whole podcast. Obviously, we're not going to be able to share everything, but we have a lot of good information for you that at least will tickle your interest. And I do hope that you take this opportunity after this podcast, that you do some research for yourself. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, who will? We can't live with the government. We don't want to live always with the government, and we can't live without the government. So if that is the case, how do we maneuver through the ups and downs and ins and outs in life unless we stand up for ourselves? One man who really has stood up for himself and decided to use the information to make a documentary is my guest today, Rick Barnes. Rick.
Thanks, Jacobus.
Good day to you.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
I almost need to drink water after just hearing you say all that. I'm like,
go ahead, have a drink of water. But Rick made a very interesting documentary that took many years to make. It's called 50 Cents a Dose. I'll show you the picture. Yep. This is it. You can purchase this video. We'll give you all the information as the video goes on. The 50 cents a dose is really very helpful for me, was very helpful for me to look at because you cover a lot of different aspects. And I want to thank you, first of all, for making it.
You're quite welcome. Yeah, thank you. And the reason I started with that project is because, I got to a point where I was kind of getting another, grasp on my health because I was starting to age a bit, and I started reading more health literature. And one thing kept popping up again and again and again, and it was Thimerasol. And Thimerasol is that mercury-based preservative that was, for the most part, in the flu shot.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of, a lot of information coming out around, 2005, 2006 about Thimerasol, and it was kind of being talked about in all kinds of circles. And 90%.
It's considered it's one of 4 different mercury solutions or products on the market. But now they say it's probably the most dangerous of all, but you did a lot of research on that.
Well, mostly I interviewed people and I read everything I could about it. So, it took me 6 years to finish this because I had no budget, and I just kind of had to do it as I went along. And, I used a recycled tape stock to shoot it on. I didn't even have a high definition camera, so I used a standard definition because that's what I owned. I'm a cameraman.
Yeah, you went to film school.
Yeah, I did. So for, majority of my, my career life, I've been a cameraman working in industrial films, etc. And we did a lot of medical stuff, too. And but this Thimerasol kept popping up, and there are so many facets of this. The flu shot, 90% of it, like I said, if you were going to a Walmart or whatever, you were undoubtedly getting the Thimerasol. And there was a big study that came out in, I think around 2000. It was called the Fudenberg Study, and he was he was a European immunologist, and he did a study where if you had a flu shot 5 consecutive years in a row, it increased your chances of Alzheimer's by 10-fold.
So
yeah.
Wow.
And so this Fudenberg study was being talked about by a lot of people. And, I interviewed a doctor at Dr. Donald Miller at the University of Washington. He was a professor emeritus there of cardiothoracic surgery.
Yeah.
And he was kind of, advising people not to take this. And he was kind of getting in a bit of trouble about that, too. I interviewed him, and is rightfully so. His wife was concerned about his safety.
Yeah.
Just talking about
Yeah.
that. So anyhow, that's what started me on that journey. I wanted to find out more about thimerosal and what's going on with that. And in the Wayback Machine, RFK was talking about it too.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
one of the
yeah.
few voices talking about
He's
it.
actually also on your video.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I just, followed the flu shot, read everything I could about it, and read articles about thimerosal. And I was able eventually to get a hold of Brian Hooker, who did research on thimerosal. And he had a son who was, autistic. And so he started researching thimerosal. And he was a scientist, and he did genetic modification of vegetables, and he's kind of a brilliant guy. And he discovered the huge link between, thimerosal and neurological damage.
Wow.
And so he came to my house. He, taught a summer class at the prison in Walla Walla, Washington. He's a really hardworking guy, lives in California.
Yeah, yeah.
But he drove to my house and let me interview him. And, he's just a sweetheart of a guy and just, a wealth of information. And he was the one who outed the CDC whistleblower, William Thompson.
Yeah.
And William Thompson said, we had a big meeting where we discussed this data, and no one could leave with any papers. They had a big garbage can. And they said, you need to put everything in the garbage can before you go, because the information does not leave this room.
Wow.
So William Thompson kept
So then
some.
it was only he said, she said.
Correct.
And that is,
so there would be no physical
Yeah.
proof. I think that was the Simpsonwood meeting, if I'm not mistaken. And so William Thompson kept some of that information. And Brian Hooker was making a lot of phone calls, and he ended up getting a hold of William Thompson. And, wanted to know more about what he knew.
Is
And
that the phone call that was
that
recorded?
was the phone call in this film. And, William Thompson even confessed this on Facebook, on his Facebook page. He said, I withheld information that implicates, inoculations and autism. And he said, I regret it. And so Brian recorded him on the phone. Brian went to Oregon and recorded the conversation because that was legal in Oregon to record a conversation.
Interesting,
So-
yeah.
And so, that went viral on the internet, of course, and Brian was all over the internet on that. And he kind of became sort of a local hero, so to speak, about this whistleblower situation. And that kind of triggered the production of the movie Vaxxed.
Correct.
And so Vaxxed was all about that.
Yeah.
And that was on Netflix, and it got pulled because Adam Schiff called, as I recall, he called Netflix and said, you got to take that off, Senator. And so it was only on there for like 30 days, I think. And
Did it get a lot of views?
I don't know.
remember? Yeah.
But I did talk to the distributor about that, and he said for that film, it was kind of the best thing that happened, because once it got pulled from Netflix, a lot of people were like, oh, maybe I ought to watch that.
Yeah.
So they ordered the DVD, and so they had a pretty good sales on the DVD. But anyhow, so that was kind of the start of my journey, and looking at thimerosal, and it kind of led me down the path of this topic in general. So I just started interviewing people who I could interview to get their take. And
I'm amazed with the amount of people you have interviewed
yeah,
and how very clear and open they are
Yeah.
with facts
yeah,
to back it up, and how they're using even government information. What
Correct.
the government says, the CDC, the NIH,
Yeah.
the FDA, they literally use the reports that
yeah,
most people probably would never dig for.
yeah,
And they have them.
right.
And they
Yeah.
share it on this video.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I highly recommend that you get a copy and look at it, that you have it in your possession, because even after one time looking at it, you go, wow, that was a lot of information. Got to look at it again. And that will be
Admit
definitely. It's interesting. It's interesting to look at it.
Thank you. Good.
And, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Because when I talk about controversy, the controversy comes in that the truth is the truth.
Yeah.
There is only one truth.
Yeah.
And the facts are the facts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what can you do with the truth?
Yeah.
And what can you do with the facts?
Yeah.
You can start if it is, especially money is the big common denominator over here. Mm-hmm. When money gets involved, all of a sudden we see a change in words, a change in facts. We see some elimination of certain facts to make other numbers look better.
Yeah, correct.
Now there is a controversy, and we need to have the people who were in the know who can say, wait a second, there is a problem here.
Yeah.
And sadly, when it comes to education and media, and now social media, you see that the money has infiltrated the media, the money has infiltrated the schools, the money has infiltrated simple, regular elementary education, not just universities or medical schools, but money has been used as much as possible to get a story, to get a narrative out that whoever is in charge of all this wants people to know and to accept as the truth. And that is, that can be health-wise very dangerously.
Well, when you talk about controversy, the only real controversy is that newspapers generally don't. Part of what they've been doing is to obfuscate the issue. So they aren't, they'll say, trust the science, but they don't look at the science. They look at the marketing. So they look at the marketing pamphlets.
I see.
So the controversy is they're not doing journalism. So
that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
They don't. Like they will say, in a typical journalistic article, they'll say, they don't cause autism. Well, as a journalist, you would write that and you would say, many professionals disagree with the concept that it causes autism. Mm-hmm. That's journalism. Yeah. To say it doesn't cause autism,
you become a
that's
expert.
an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's not journalism. Mm-hmm. That's an opinion piece.
Yeah.
The government papers are full of the data about autism as being one side effect.
It is clearly stated in the paperwork that autism is one of the many potential side effects.
Yeah, and there was a party called the Canary Party, started in Minnesota, and they uncovered, some of the trial papers of kids who were being rewarded for their injuries. And autism was one of those injuries. Mm-hmm. There were they had discovered 85 documents.
Wow.
But it's more simple than that. If you look at a product insert, these are all of these, maladies that we talk about. They're all on the product insert. Mm-hmm. So when they created the 1986 Act, part of the ruling was that they didn't have to show the product insert to the parents or to the health professionals. They condensed it all to a one-page VIS, Vaccine Information Statement. It's a yellow sheet. And we just have to list the most common side effect. Mm-hmm. We don't have to list all the other ones. Yeah. And of course, the most common one is always pain at the injection site.
Correct.
So you get a sheet that says, it's just pain at the injection site. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
But if you get the product insert, they're usually about that thick. And you can download them, at least you could. Yeah. You can download them and you can look at the reported, side effects.
Yeah.
And autism is on there, neurological disorders, seizures, allergies, asthma. It's all on there, and
Yeah.
it's a bullet point of all the common maladies that run rampant through children in the U.S. right now.
When you look at thimerosal, one of the
Yeah.
statements that is being made in your video, thimerosal was put into vaccine to keep them sterile. 50% of thimerosal is composed of mercury, specifically ethyl mercury, and it is the most dangerous form of mercury. And then they said, you quote Mary Holland, they said that in the amounts it was contained in vaccines, it was safe. The evidence does not support that. They talk about the different parts per billion of mercury. And these are simple facts. This is not something that's made up. The EPA and the CDC clearly make these comments. They say 2 parts per billion. 2 parts per billion is enough to exceed drinking water. So up to 2 parts per billion mercury is considered safe. Anything above it is not safe in drinking water. So drinking water is something that you swallow, and eventually it filters through the body and it gets peed out, and some nutrients get absorbed into the body, especially if the water contains herbs or whatever you're looking for. Now that is 2 parts per billion. 200 parts per billion is considered enough to be hazardous waste. That means they need hazmat suits in order to remove it. 200 parts per billion. But then 25,000 parts per billion, 25,000 parts per billion was what we had in childhood vaccines. And some of those vaccines were then given together, such as with the Hep B, which was given, the hepatitis B shot, which was given from 1990 till 2002, had 25,000 parts per billion of mercury, thimerosal, actually, mercury, given at birth. We're talking within days of being born, or sometimes within hours after being born, that was already given to children. So 50 parts per billion is in DTaP and HIT vaccines, which are given at 2, 4, 6, 12, and 18 months. 2, 4, 6, 12, and 18 months back in the 1990s. So even if people are saying it's not included anymore today, thimerosal, you're looking at a generation born since 1988, 1990, and the potential poisoning that was put in the body, because it's not you and I, but we can say the word poison, we can say the word vaccine, because these are simply facts that have been documented by our government organizations like NIA, EPA, FDA, CDC.
The EPA, if they were to regulate those products, if they were to evaluate them, here's an example. The flu shot, the EPA and OSHA do not analyze that. That's out of their purview. That's not part of their paradigm.
Okay.
If a nurse has a vial in the room and she drops it on the floor, that suddenly becomes a hazardous waste site.
I see.
The thimerosal on the floor is now a hazardous waste site, and you have to deal with that with OSHA protocols. You have to get people out of the room, and that has to be handled as hazardous waste. But when it goes in the arm, it's not hazardous waste.
Well,
So-
you bring up that light bulb.
And the light bulb, they contain mercury, so you can't throw those in
You
the
cannot put them in the trash.
standard trash because they've got mercury in them.
Yeah,
But-
there's a whole ritual. It comes with an insert.
It
comes with an
Right.
insert how you have to get rid of it.
Exactly.
But you literally inject into the bloodstream things that are so much higher
Yeah.
in mercury than what you have in 2 parts per billion in a glass of water.
So if the EPA, they're monitoring, drinking water, and they're saying, 2 parts per billion max, but this product right next to it is going in someone's muscle tissue.
Yeah.
What about that? And the thing about that, when it goes in, when those heavy metals go into your muscle tissue, those want to go to the brain. That's where heavy metals love to go. And one of the, lately you've been hearing about Tylenol, about, these memes about Tylenol causing cancer or autism.
Autism, right.
Tylenol, autism link. There's no such thing.
Pregnancy. Yeah.
Well, the problem with Tylenol, and this has been known for many years, is that Tylenol softens the blood-brain barrier, makes it very malleable. So those heavy metals, including aluminum and mercury, they partition to the brain. They go to the brain and they stay there. Both of those heavy metals, that's just where they'll go.
Yeah.
Because your body doesn't have a methylation pathway in that muscle tissue. If those were to go orally, the aluminum will pretty much be expunged from your body, 99.9% of it. The mercury, it absorbs, it's heavy, so it'll go into tissue, and it's a very weird product.
Yeah, and you look at all the warning signs they have on canned fish.
Correct. There's another thing. And so a really interesting thing, in the 70s, I remember my aunt sitting at our kitchen table, and she was kind of, ahead of the curve a little bit. It was the first time I heard about juice fasting from my aunt. I was like, what? Right. But she said that they were finding aluminum in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. So this happened in the 70s. And it was like, so there was an aluminum can scare. People started to get a little worried about drinking beer or pop out of aluminum cans.
Yeah.
Because, they were finding it in the brains. But lo and behold, aluminum has been in a lot of these products forever. And so that's where it wants to go.
Yeah. You mean mercury?
Mercury and aluminum.
And aluminum both, yes.
And the two together are synergistically toxic.
Okay.
So one by itself, Dr. Donald Miller, he talks about a mouse study where they injected mice with mercury, and 1 out of 100 died. And they injected mice with aluminum, 1 out of 100 died.
Oh.
When they injected them with both mercury and aluminum, all 100 mice died.
No way.
Yeah. So there's something about those two products together which are it's a super toxin. And so a lot of these products are super toxins.
It is not only about dying.
Correct, yeah.
It's also about the long term, those who suffer long term.
Yeah.
When there is a war or there is an accident or a fire and we hear, 30 people died, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It is horrible. But then we don't always hear about the 500 that were wounded.
Yeah,
who may carry those wounds with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Plus the emotional trauma of having been in that situation.
Yeah.
And that's another aspect of it.
Yeah, it is. It becomes a chronic
the injury,
issue.
the vaccine injured.
Exactly. Well, in the situation with mice, they have a very quick lifespan and things happen very quickly in their lives, so they die. But in a human, it's going to linger. It's going to go on for years, and it's going to exacerbate neurological function. It's going to make problems with your organs.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Thimerosal was invented by Eli Lilly.
Oh.
I think in 1933.
Huh.
And there's, an infamous note from one of the developers that says, we really got to watch this. We really got to watch out for this.
Wow.
So the first official case of autism was in 1938, a few years after the invention of Thimerosal. That was a little boy named Donald Triplett in Mississippi. And he was diagnosed by Lee O'Connor. That actually spells out Canner, Kanner. And he said, we've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
And he was, one of the leading, psychologists in medicine at the time. And about that time, other children popped up. They started popping up with the same heretofore unrecognizable condition. They said, this is something we have not seen before.
So symptoms of autism could be preoccupation with objects, inability to keep eye contact, difficulty holding a conversation, preoccupation with dates or phone numbers, insisting on following routines, so kind of an OCD type, right? Rocking, dipping, swaying. I know kids who do that.
Yeah.
So these are the preoccupation with objects, inability to keep eye contact, difficulty holding a conversation, dates and phone numbers, following routines. That's what they want to stick with. Yeah. And then the body movements, you could call it maybe an uncontrolled type body movement. And that is how they started diagnosing children back in 1938.
Yeah. There were a couple of books that were published called Neural Tribes and In a Different Key. And those books, one of which was, written by some TV reporters. And those argue that this is a symptom that we just didn't notice. It's always been there, but with better diagnostics, now we see it because we just have better diagnostic tools.
I see.
But that's been refuted by, I think, University of California, Berkeley, and a lot of neuroscientists. They changed the whole language, those two books, because those two books came out at the same time. They jumped the gun on a book called Age of Autism, written by Mark Blaxall and Dan Olmsted.
Who do the Canary Project.
Yeah, and they did such intense, fantastic research on autism, on its origins, on the number of children who have it, and its growing epidemic proportions. So these two books came out right before their book, and they kind of stole the spotlight.
I see.
And these two books changed the language of autism. So they introduced this word neural diversity.
Neural diversity.
So this language of diversity is problematic because what it does is it obfuscates the real issue is that this isn't neurological diversity. It's neurological damage. There's no nerves. They have a typical pattern the way they form. They have a biophysical, structure. Something that's all out of whack isn't diverse. Something that's all out of whack is damaged. It's neurological damage.
Right.
And that can come from a number of things. Chemical toxicity is a big one. And the brain is so delicate in the first 2 years of life. So the third trimester of life through the first 2 years is where the grain goes. The grain goes into the beer afterwards. But that's when the brain goes through its most intense growth period. And that's when all these nerves are really establishing themselves and those myelin sheaths are getting formed. And so, those really decide what's going to happen with your body. And one of the problems with kids who get all of these products before the age of 2 is that interrupts that neurological growth. It interrupts how those neurons complete their cycle of growth. Right. Those myelin sheaths. So myelin sheaths are the covers like on an electrical wire.
Correct.
You've got a sheath on there.
Yeah.
That's what covers a nerve.
Yeah.
And those get...
Otherwise, we couldn't live. Everything
those get toasted.
Pain, yeah.
That's one of the issues that happens when kids get them that early. And there's a big push to have kids have all of these before the age of 2. Yeah. Super problematic. And a lot of these...
Why do you think there is this push to get it all done before the age of 2?
Well...
What is being said, and what do you think is the real reason behind it?
Well, part of the reason is that eventually, because manufacturers had no liability, they started flooding the market with products.
Okay.
And once you get a product out there, of course, you want to get a government contract.
Right.
So they flooded the market with them. They get a government contract, and the childhood schedule ballooned. So pretty soon, it became a matter of logic or just how to get these all into a child. So right away, they want to get you in there. And you're more prone to go to the doctor when the baby is very young anyhow. So it's a good time to just get these going.
Yeah, because you're
Get
a
'em
little
going.
confused. And what happens to my baby?
Yeah, is my
right?
baby okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fine. By the way, you need 6 of these right now. Oh, okay, well, if you say so.
Yeah.
And that list has just ballooned and skyrocketed.
Yeah.
You know, and basically...
You told me yesterday a story about your daughter.
Yeah.
That she went to the doctor for...
Correct. Yeah, she had strep throat, and
Strep
she was
throat.
feeling really bad. And we went, so I took her to the doctor, and,
This is when, roughly?
This was roughly about...
Mid-90s?
No, this was roughly maybe 2011. And went in there, and, it was like 10 o'clock at night or something, and the doctor comes in. The first thing he says, he had our sheet, and he says, I noticed your daughter doesn't have a flu shot or an HPV shot. And it was not like, how's your daughter? How's your throat feeling? How do you feel? What's your temperature? It was like, you haven't had these 2 shots.
Wow.
And I was like, meanwhile, I had been kind of doing this research, and I told him, I just read a 1,000-page PDF on the HPV.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, well, I'm not here to argue. And so then he finally got down to business.
Yeah.
And
So the doctors were in the mode of pushing
that.
Pushing vaccines.
Meanwhile,
because,
the flu shot had, I had all this concern about the flu shot initially, and then 2 big studies came out with my HMO and Kaiser Permanente of California. Over a 5-year study showed that in elderly and in children, there was no correlation between that product and influenza. So that product meant nothing. The people who got it had no different outcomes. So, and I was excited because I thought, they're going to pull this from the market. Yes.
Yeah.
They will pull the flu jab from the market.
Yes.
This is good news.
Yeah.
Gets rid of that big dose of Thimerasol. It'll just be good news.
It was a big dose of Thimerosal.
Yeah, in a lot
and they were even pushing it onto pregnant women.
Correct. Well, so when those studies came out, I was excited. I think they're going to pull this. And then days later, maybe a couple weeks, the CDC came out and recommended it for everybody from 6 months to end of life. And it kind of blew me away. I was like, well, wait a minute. These 2 huge studies just came out and said it doesn't do anything. How, then the kind of a dark pallor went over me, or a pallor I think is light. But I was like, something is not right. If they're recommending this after these 2 huge multi-year studies come out, something is not right. So what I gleaned from that is that they want there to be no doubt in anybody's mind about any of these products. And they are willing to sacrifice health in order to maintain that confidence. They're ready to have people take a product which could give them all kinds of side effects. They're ready to throw a lot of people under the bus just to maintain a protocol.
I see.
And so that really kind of shook me. And and that kind of bolstered me to keep going on this.
Besides the media, and you, in your video, 50 cents a dose, you do show a few TV clips, interviews.
Yeah.
And you see indeed that, just like you said, the journalists are fed information that they have to say on air. And when you have a guest who maybe is very clear about the topic, that either enhances that opinion or it is a controversial opinion. And then the journalist doesn't know what to say next if it is controversial because they haven't studied really the topic. And I get it. They have a life and there's a lot of information. And sometimes you talk to an expert who has done something for decades and it was right there for 5 minutes to talk to. How do you communicate with it? But we do see that those kind of interviews to the viewers has caused question marks and worries, and they try to cover it up as much as possible. Now, on the other hand, we also have an alternative media that now we do more and more since the invention of social media and the internet. It has, I think that is something that companies, pharmaceutical companies, the government, the media hasn't always thought about clearly, unless you really put the kibosh on it. You cannot control what people are sharing unless you go in and you start creating a reaction, say, well, that's a bunch of BS. And
well, that's where the censorship started, because when the internet became a viable tool, people could share their stories. They could suddenly say, wow, this happened to my child. They were sharing it all over the place. And I can't remember who I was talking to, but when you started to see the stories, I was like, they're going to start censoring. And there's just no way they will let this go because there's too much money involved. You know, the government contract, like I was talking, is the most dangerous thing to the American public. Because if you get a government contract, it's so much money every year.
That you get
from the government. In these products, they're mandated for school. So it's like you've got a guaranteed pipeline of hundreds of millions of dollars and you will do anything.
Right.
At least that is what, the situation has shown. You will do anything to keep that contract.
Correct.
And so people were sharing stories and putting up websites. One particular product was the HPV shot for teenage girls.
Human papillomavirus.
Yep. A lot of girls were really getting seriously injured. And so a group of mothers put up a website, Truth About Gardasil, and they would post all the stories of their daughters and their pictures and, girls getting paralyzed and getting huge autoimmune disorders.
Epileptic seizures.
Some were dying.
Heavy bleeding.
Yeah, it just mess up many of their organs.
Yeah, even infertility.
Yeah. And so and then there was another site, I think it was called The Truth About Gardasil.
Okay.
And that was lawyers who were handling these cases. Because the case, after 2 years, if you didn't get compensation from the government, you could run the case through a civil court and sue.
Okay.
For that. So
who would you sue if the law in 1986 said you couldn't make a vaccine company liable for any injury?
After 2 years, you can take it to another court.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you can apply, under that program, you can apply. You've got a 2-year window to apply for federal compensation due to that injury.
Okay.
If you're turned down for compensation, at that point, you can get your own lawyer and resue. You can sue the pharmaceutical company. So that's what people were doing with that product. And,
So I still don't understand. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's
if
complicated.
you say that if the 1986 law says that pharmaceutical companies cannot be made liable for any adverse effect of medication or vaccinations, if it has been produced correctly, if it has been administered correctly, then you cannot go after them.
That was in the childhood schedule.
That was the childhood. But a 12 or 13-year-old girl who gets an HPV vaccine is still a child.
Yeah, that's still in the childhood schedule.
Okay.
So,
but how can you then, why do you talk about a 2-year window and then you can sue them after that? You can go straight to the company.
If you're convinced your child, at that point, if you were convinced your child was harmed, you apply to the special master's court and say, my child was harmed by this product. Then you go to court And it's not a court of your peers. It's all these government bureaucrats sitting around and deciding if you get an award or not.
Oh.
It's like, I don't think so. You know, they turned down like 98% of them.
Oh.
So if that happens, then you are free to go get your own lawyer.
Okay.
And re-sue.
Huh.
So that's what, that's what was happening with a lot of families.
So it is not the same as double jeopardy, where you say we got we couldn't
correct.
allow and now we can. So, but in this case, you can still go.
You can still go. I mean,
okay.
It's
that's wonderful.
It's
it's crazy, but
it's
it is
crazy.
wonderful.
It's a lot of time, and and there's money and so a lot of people pursued that avenue, and in instances like that, I watched as the language change as all of this was going on, especially like with that product. And by the way, we talked about Mary Holland. She co-wrote a book called Gardasil on Trial.
Okay.
About that product. And I believe that is also the product that Bill Gates took to India, caused.
So Gardasil is the name of the vaccine.
The product.
The
Merck's
product that is being used to inoculate and to stop the spread of HPV, human papillomavirus.
But even then, they said the real purpose of it was reduced,
fertility.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
But supposedly reduced scarring because of the infection.
Oh,
but they said, but it also helps cause cancer. But it turned out that HPV
Bill Gates
cancers,
went to India.
Yeah, but HPV cancers actually increased after that product was released. Wow. Because you got to, one of the misconceptions is this erases the antigen, either the virus or the bacteria, but they put it in you. So the product contains the antigen. So they're putting it in you. So you are technically a carrier.
I see.
If you become immune to it or not is your body's choice, what your body does with that. And
that's right. So that's why some people have,
yeah,
it may be silent for decades,
yeah,
and some people will have perhaps immediate reactions.
Yeah. So to say that causes, when they say something is effective, all that means is that it's producing the intended antibody.
I see.
In a lab. So that's lab efficacy.
Yeah.
Sherry Tenpenny taught me this. So it's like they say, if something's 92% effective and 92% of the people it produced an antibody in their body. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be immune. Their body may just say, we're still going to get it. Or I'm going to take that antigen and I'm going to get sick from it. So, and then they're getting the adjuvant. So the adjuvant is that thing that kickstarts your immune system. And that's one of the big problems. Okay. So if they put an antigen in you or a virus or a bacteria, just with saline, that won't do anything. Because it's just a little teeny, there's not a viral load. There's not a bacterial load enough to get you sick. So they have to put a Kickstarter in there, which is the adjuvant. And usually they've been using aluminum, which is a neurotoxin.
I see.
So your body sees that aluminum and says, I don't know what that is. That's not biological. That's nothing that exists in nature. Our bodies don't have the methylation pathway for it. So your body freaks out and says, holy cat, something's going on here. What's this aluminum? So your immune system goes haywire. Yeah. It detects the antigen and says, oh, maybe it's that antigen. I'm going to develop an antibody for that.
Yeah.
But anything else that's in that product, like peanut oil, your body's going to see that too and say, oh, maybe that's it too. So I got this antigen in the peanut oil. I'm going to produce antibodies. So that means a peanut allergy. So your immune system isn't that, it's just taking what you give it and it's saying, okay, these are the responses I have to do. I'm going all out of whack. There's this antibody. There's these chemicals in there. If there's, glycogen gluten in there, I'm going to produce an antibody to that. So then I'll be gluten insensitive. The kid's going to be gluten insensitive.
That's right.
So
Casein,
your immune system, you're telling your immune system all kinds of things that it doesn't want to see, or it would not see in nature.
I see.
So that these adjuvants are really a problem. And
are the adjuvants necessary for them? I mean, how do they pick an adjuvant?
Well, that's a good question. Experimentation.
Experimentation.
To see what kicks up the immune system.
And I know they've experimented on animals primarily with this. And that is still not the same as a human body.
Correct.
But that is, in your video, again, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny explains kind of how that works. I would love to read what she says, but that is kind of where she explains
and
the carrier.
You bring up a really good point about, testing these on animals. Yeah. Because one of the ways they collect the viruses and or the bacteria for the products is they have to be cultured.
Yeah.
And so they have to be cultured on a biological entity. So, I can show you some of the contents since we were talking about the MMR.
Yeah, that's good.
So this is an excipient list, and it's stuff that other than the antigen, which is in the product. So the MMR, this is actually the MMR2, so it's like an updated version of it. I don't know when they came out with this particular product, and this sheet's a few years old. But one of the things is bovine albumin or serum. So that's cow. Mm-hmm. That's cow matter. Mm-hmm. So that's genetic material from a cow that's going in. Mm-hmm. Another one is chick embryo fibroblasts. Mm-hmm. So that is chicken genetic material going into the child. Mm-hmm. Another one is human serum.
You don't know who that is.
You don't know who that is, and they now know that they've been using aborted fetal tissue in the MMR. Mm-hmm. So these kids are getting genetic material from a cow, a chicken, and another human being.
Talking about controversy.
So when you talk to a genetic engineer, the way they genetically modify species is to take other DNA and insert that into their genome. Mm-hmm. So in the case of this product, you've got 3 other biological samples going into the product when the child's pretty young.
That was, what you just said was all in one product?
That's in
or the different products?
That's in the MMR.
Okay, wow.
So, and the MMR, that's the one that the CDC whistleblower said you got to check the MMR.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't have thimerosal, there were so many adverse events from the MMR. And
MMR is measles, mumps, and rubella.
And statistically, that has taken out a lot more children than the measles.
Wow.
And if you want to get a measles shot, the only way to get it is through the MMR. So you have to have that trivalent shot because the good folks at Merck have a patent on that, and they have, they have cornered the market. No one else can produce that. Uh-huh. No one else can sell that to the government. So that's
even after 25 years that they lose that patent. So many years?
No, they have. I should say they have monopoly.
Monopoly, okay.
So no one else. I have a friend who's a nurse, and she said she had a doctor who created a really safe, nice measles vaccine. Couldn't go anywhere with it.
Oh.
Because, again, this is the government contract. And if you've got a government contract and you have all these stakeholders, you're not going to lose it. And you're going to hold on to that. It's hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So it makes your company super profitable. So,
well, I do want to add something to that, Rick. It may have been about a decade ago when that H1N1 virus was going around.
Yeah.
And that you had these companies rushing to create some kind of a vaccine, the flu vaccine, specifically for the H1N1. And the government literally told this British company, just go ahead and produce. Just produce. We need them. Just make them. We'll cover them. We'll pay for them.
Yeah.
So even if they were never used, and they found out later they weren't used, the government literally paid for 100 million, 150 million vaccines, no matter if they were going to be used or not. And then the next year they simply said, there is a new strain that we have discovered from the avian flu, or the avian flu coming somewhere out of Australia or somewhere in the other part of the world.
Yeah.
And now we have to make a whole new one.
Right.
And then they would make a new one. And again, the government would totally protect it and say, we pay for this. This is, so when you think about it, government, that means the only money they have is whatever we pay as taxpayers.
Yeah.
There is no other money coming in.
I know.
No, pretty much not.
And
you know, there are some lobbyists, of course, but when it comes to actual government money, it really consists only of what taxpayers pay. And so it's understandable that people get a little pissed off when they read some of these reports about these strains. Literally, the government contract will guarantee payout.
So in the wild, you know, all these viruses, they go through a mutation phase. So, you know, I think it's like, I don't know if this baby's right where it should be. You know, in 10 to 14 days, that virus it goes through antigenic shift. It changes. So it changes just enough so that if you've already made a product to address it, it's no longer the same animal. Right. It goes through a mutation, and that's why colds have been here forever.
I see.
That's why everybody gets a cold. You know, it's because it's constantly changing, and that happens very quickly. So if you made a product last year, that virus is already different.
Right.
And once you process that virus and put it in your product, it's no longer wild. It's an atypical product. So you've got an atypical product because you've modified it, and then you've got the wild product. And so they're two different animals. It's kind of like you have two twins. One twin lives, say, in Butte, and one twin lives in Bozeman. And nobody knows that the guy in Bozeman has a twin in Butte. I'll pick on Butte. I shouldn't pick on Butte, right? But anyhow, so
Butte, Montana.
Yeah, so the twin from Butte comes to Bozeman and gets in a car wreck, and he's been drinking whiskey, and he kills 5 people. And everybody sees, hey, what's his name? Here, he lives here in Bozeman. I see him, But it was the evil twin who did it. But he looks just like his twin brother. Yeah. And that's kind of, to my understanding, that's kind of how an atypical virus works in these products versus a wild virus. It's not the same thing. And you can replicate it, but by the time you have processed it, its cousin over here is completely different. So it's still causing the problem.
I see.
Meanwhile, you can mass produce that, and you make a million vials, but it's not going to do anything. And that's what those 2 studies showed of the flu shot back then. It's like they're not doing anything.
Right.
They're not doing anything.
No.
But you still have to suffer because of maybe the aluminum or the mercury. You've got the side effects you've got to wade through. And people will also, I talk to a lot of young kids who are like, yeah, I used to get the flu shot every year because we didn't get it when we were kids. Yeah. They didn't start doing the annual flu shot. That didn't start till about when I mentioned, like in 2008. Yeah. Getting a flu shot nobody did it, except people who are in hospitals, people who are contained, people in senior centers. That's who they would give flu shots to. That's how they would come up with some of this data, because they had a captive audience. General public didn't do it. Yeah. So that's kind of a little dirty secret. Yeah. So, they started mandating it, recommending it for everybody after, at that
Their
point in
studies
time.
show
Yeah.
that it works on their own controlled group. But then again,
Well,
the money gets involved and then they throw out whatever doesn't work in the narrative.
yeah, but it didn't really work. They
No.
just kept doing it.
Well, you look at numbers, even when we talk less than 10 years ago, 80,000 to 90,000 people die every year from the flu, from symptoms associated with the flu.
Yeah.
Now, this may sound controversial to some people, but during COVID, nobody died of the flu.
Yeah. Yeah.
No numbers came
Right.
out
No
about
numbers
flu
came
deaths.
out. Yeah.
And they were promoting the flu shot and the COVID shot,
Yeah.
but nobody died of the flu. And a lot of people who died were, like you say, in rest homes and in hospital settings,
Yeah.
rehabilitation centers, places like that.
Yeah.
You look at it from my point of view, I know that vitamin D3 is an antiviral
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
antiviral vitamin. It fights viruses.
Okay. Yeah.
These people do not get any support
Right.
either as a vitamin D supplement,
Yeah.
nor do they get sunlight on their skin because they're laying on the blanket, so their
Yeah.
skin is never exposed
Yeah.
to the sun.
Yeah.
So there is no natural buildup of vitamin D. And when vitamin D is very low, you are much more prone to a viral infection.
Yeah. Right.
And so when you look at viruses, if you look at vitamin D, you look at the research that was done back 20, 25 years ago on elderberry,
Yeah.
that elderberry had this certain protein in it
Okay.
that would go after the flu.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was Sambucus nigra.
Mm-hmm.
And Sambucus nigra is black elderberry.
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
Became a very popular product because people said when they had the flu or when they were worried about the flu, they would just take a teaspoon of elderberry syrup
Yeah.
every day during the winter, and they said we never got sick.
Yeah.
Or if they did get sick, it was very minimal.
Yeah.
Then you look at something like zinc. Zinc is a mineral that is antiviral. It will go into a cell and literally kill the virus. So
Right.
you have natural options that people in an institution or in a hospital, in a retirement home or rehabilitation center who live there for months or years
Yeah.
simply have no access to. It's not given to them.
Correct.
So their system is weaker. Now they say, oh, we got to protect him. So they inoculate him because they say, well, that's the next best option.
Yeah.
Which we know, well, when it goes into the muscle tissue,
Yeah.
into the bloodstream. And we do know the effects it has from other kinds of vaccination, how it can affect the nervous system, how it can affect organs, how it can affect digestion, how it can affect hormones, how it can affect the brain. Now we start having issues that I don't know if they can still be repaired.
Yeah. In the old days, what they used to do in sanitariums would be to take people and take them out into the sunshine.
Correct.
They didn't know why it did it, but it helped everybody.
Yeah.
I read an article about a European immunologist who did a study on sunlight therapy because of this phenomenon. He it was passed on through the ages. It's what you did when you were sick. You got out into the sunshine.
Yeah.
It just helped. So he did he took I think 100 people and practiced sunlight therapy. They all had tuberculosis. And all of them, the symptoms went away on everybody. He had a 100% success rate on the sunlight therapy. And apparently the U.S. military was really intrigued, so they tried it, and they had a 75% success rate in World War I by treating TB patients with sunlight therapy, which involves going out in the middle of the day, exposing the sun, exposing the skin to the sun.
Yes.
And so when you look at it in the nature, when you go into for a walk in the woods, you can see it in action because On the north side of the trees is where all the moss and the mushrooms grow.
Right.
But the south side is bare because sunlight is antiviral, it's antifungal, and it's antibacterial. It's nature's soap.
Yeah.
It's nature's way of saying, look, I'll make you clean. You know, and you will see ultraviolet light products that sterilize. I worked on an infomercial way back as a cameraman, you know, where we did this tooth product and they'd put this, you know, insert in a little UV tube with UV lights to sterilize it with ultraviolet light.
Yeah.
Because sunlight is, you know, it's a gift. And now sunlight is vilified by society. And everybody's sick.
So we got to be careful.
You better smear this cream on with all these chemicals. That's better for you than sunlight.
Yeah.
You know, those thousands of years of living in the sun, they were wrong.
Yeah.
We've got it right. Put chemicals on your skin. Get out of that sun. It causes cancer. Well, cancer rates have gone up since, you know, the implementation of all these chemicals on the skin. And there were, you know, there were a lot of studies that showed it was the fragrances in these chemicals that caused the cancer. My sister had a case in point. She used to put perfume on the back of her neck when she'd go golfing. And that's where she had skin cancer.
Oh,
She had
interesting.
Had it taken off right there.
Huh.
And so, you know, so fragrances and their reaction to the sun is probably the big smoking gun for a lot of these skin cancers.
Wow. I do want to come back to something that you just said about how we grow a vaccine, how that is made. And Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, in your video, and I decided to write it all down. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read it because I think it accentuates something you mentioned earlier about all the adjuvants that are in here.
Yeah.
She says, vaccines that are viruses have to be grown in animal tissues because that's how they replicate. After they've been replicated, there's a process that goes through that extracts them and puts them into the vaccine. In that extraction process, many times you pick up stray viruses from the solutions that they were grown in. So if they were grown in cells that came from dogs, or hamster ovaries, or bovine serum, or simian monkey tissues, many of those stray viruses end up in the vaccine. And it may actually, one of the comments after that was say, it may actually methylate DNA. So when you talk about how the myelin sheath gets affected, the virus at such a young age, when so much of a child is still developing, it actually can methylate DNA and therefore affect it. And then they talked about the simian virus number 40, the SV40, which has higher risk of cancer. So people who had the SV40 in their vaccine, they have literally seen, follow the science, higher incidence of cancer. They changed the record of our human species, is what she says. They changed the record of our human species. They literally change our genetic code.
You pass that. You pass
it on now.
Yeah.
So when they say genetically I'm predisposed to this or that disorder, I still have my debate about it, but you can definitely create a weaker generation of people. I do believe that there are plenty of choices that we have with food, exercise, sunlight, dietary supplements, things of that nature, and to enhance and to work against these predicaments, so to say. But at the same time, when you're already born behind the 8 ball with these problems, or when you have a mother who feels that she needs to get vaccinated while she is pregnant, then there is a problem. Now, an interesting One came out from somebody who we both know, Suzanne Humphreys. Apparently, just a couple of years ago in an interview, she is talking about the importance of vitamin A. Now, it says that a lack of vitamin A actually accelerates a weakness in the immune system, which now will have a stronger effect also on the vaccines, on the body. And the interesting thing is that when women who are pregnant take a multivitamin that we call a prenatal multivitamin, what sets a prenatal apart from a regular multivitamin is simply low vitamin A, because they say it can have an effect on the spinal cord and is not good for the brain, and there is higher levels of folic acid. But Suzanne Humphreys, in her article, she actually, the way she says it is vitamin A. How does vitamin A relate to vaccines, particularly the measles vaccine? She says both natural measles infections and the measles vaccine deplete vitamin A levels in the body, which may lead to negative health effects. Humphreys highlights that this depletion is rarely mentioned in standard medical advice, which often limits post-vaccination recommendations to Tylenol. She argues that vitamin A supplementation should be advised alongside the measles vaccine to support immune health, and which is a practice that is currently overlooked. So vitamin A, in general, is good for digestion. And many people have digestive issues. It is good for overall immune health. It's good for the heart. Vitamin A on a daily basis, you don't have to go crazy, but just get some vitamin A in, can actually help your immune health. Vitamin D, like I said, has shown to be antiviral. It builds the immune system. All things that we need to overcome it. Another quote that is made, I want to hear what you have to say, another quote is being made is, we're living in nature, and we have lived in nature, and generations before us, we're talking 30, 40 generations, 10 generations before us, they lived in Mother Nature. They would get exposed to problems that would show up in nature. The Industrial Revolution has created poisons to get rid of stuff. You know, you gotta go put the trash out. It has affected generations. It has caused diseases within those generations. But we have worked through it and we have overcome it. And every time you overcome it, we have mastered it. And what they have seen with vaccinations or inoculations is that they usually are being produced and researched when the disease is either already completely on decline or when it is actually barely even existing anymore. That's when they come out with a vaccine. Now they say, see, when I give you that vaccine, that specific disease doesn't come up. So there is definitely, again, a misunderstanding amongst the general public. That vaccines have eradicated diseases, because they don't.
So we can show this, a part of this video. As a cameraman, I shot Dr. Thomas Cowan, who is one of the few people in the world to read the research which justifies that product on measles. And another important point about vitamin A is that, you know, a lot of measles historically is a comorbid. It's a comorbidity. It's a comorbid disease. Typically, people don't die of it. You die with it in conjunction with other physical ailments. So if you are malnourished, you have bad drinking water, your immune system is super compromised, and then you get the measles, that can be a contributing factor to your death.
I see.
But Dr. Donald Miller told me that in the 50s, they used to have measles parties, because everybody knew that measles was part of the rite of passage for your body.
I remember that too.
And so, yeah, so one of the things about what your body does when you get measles.
My mother told me to just go out and be out and about.
So if I'm getting the details right, so when you get it, your body produces a Th helper cell to fight that measles. Producing that triggers your body to produce another helper cell that fights cancer. So getting the measles is part of your immune system's maturation. So it triggers your system to become ready, stronger for the big stuff.
I see.
For cancer.
I see.
And so cancers among children right now are, last I heard, was one of the leading causes of death among kids in the U.S.
Oh,
is
that's
cancer.
so sad.
And so creating a fear is part of how this package works. So, I had German measles as a kid. I had the mumps, and it was, I got to stay home and watch TV.
Yeah, yeah.
And anyhow, let's look at this video from Dr. Thomas Cowan. Let's see if this works real quick.
Okay.
He talks about this. And let's see, I think that's him. We'll just start here. And he talks about the study, that relative correlation that you just talked about.
We all know that measles death rate was lowered by 97% because of, and the citation is Rausch et al. Right? So I decided to read Rausch et al. And here's what you see. Everybody has this. You see this. This is mortality rate from measles. If you can't see that, it's just 100 per 100,000 in 1920, and then 1 per 100,000 in 1965. And the vaccine was introduced here. So and it's the exact same for every other vaccinatable disease. So how did he get 97% reduction? Because it's true. If you take the number here, 1 per 100,000, here, 100 per 100,000, there is a 97% reduction in the death rate pre and post-vaccine. It's absolutely true. You have to be very careful with these people.
Okay. So,
wow, that is super interesting.
Yeah.
But those are facts.
They technically are facts, but you're looking at the wrong part of the curve, as Dr. Cowan talks about. And so, data can be really manipulated to show pretty much whatever you want. He explains it pretty clearly there.
Yeah, very simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really amazing. And that is it's amazing to hear it actually from so many different angles. And these are people, Suzanne Humphreys, who was a nephrologist, and you look at Sherry Tenpenny, you look at, you can come up with a whole bunch of doctors that you have interviewed. These are all people who have went to school, they got their studies, they got their degrees.
Yeah.
Some of them were valedictorians, so they were considered to be pretty smart.
Yeah.
Then they start coming out with these studies that show problems. And all of a sudden, their licenses are taken away, or they're being told they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that is very difficult for the public, the general public, then to say, wow, I really want to follow that doctor, because they go, well, if we're being told we should not listen to this doctor because he or she is spreading lies, then it causes them to follow the wrong leader.
Yeah. Well, that is why censorship is evil.
Yeah.
Getting your license taken away and getting deplatformed, those are some of the problems, but really there, a lot of people, there are thousands of doctors that know, what's going on, that know the injuries, that know, they know that, what's going on. But there are also, frankly, this may sound weird, but there are greater risks. A lot of people who have published research, they just end up with Epstein disease. They die pretty
Epstein-Barr virus. Oh, Epstein disease.
Epstein.
Okay.
There was.
I walked into that one.
You did walk into that. I mean, it sounds nutty, but Jeffrey Bradstreet was a doctor that had all these breakthroughs with autistic kids, and he was kind of the first.
What do you mean breakthrough?
He implicated vaccines and autism, and he was publishing it, and he was having great success, and he was publishing his findings. And then you have the founder of Know the Risks. She was a Merck whistleblower. What's her name? This is her company, their organization, and
LearnTheRisk.org.
yeah, and she was a Merck whistleblower, and just the picture of health. And in her 40s, she just suddenly succumbed to something and died. And then Toni Bark was an MD. She was a naturopath and an MD, and she was coming out and really being vocal about this. And she developed a sudden case of virulent cancer and just passed away very quickly.
So,
and there was supposedly 89 doctors and researchers had suddenly died working on this, releasing their information.
wow.
Particularly in regards to autism.
And the files have been deleted.
Yeah, there was, and I was very paranoid about even starting this project, and I kind of kept it secret. It was kind of a secret project, if you will, kind of an underground film, because I really didn't want to tell anyone that I was interviewing all these people about these products.
Yeah.
And I was worried because there was kind of a, rumor mill that it was hazardous to your health just because of, kind of the track record of people's shortened lives, And it sounds kind of bizarre, and maybe it is paranoid, but, it's out there.
It shouldn't be that way, but it has always been hazardous for your health when you speak up for your health.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so it's just super complicated. That's probably too much information to share.
Well, again, you can look this up.
Yeah,
You can find this information.
Well, speaking of which, so, when people talk about Google University and you talk about researching information, so an important thing in regard to censorship is that, if you're looking for real information, you don't want to use Google. You don't want to use Wikipedia.
Okay.
You don't want to use Bing because these are all corporate. Those aren't objective search engines. They're directed search engines. That's what Google Analytics is. It tracks you and it feeds you what they think you want to see or what they want you to see. It's not a objective search engine.
Yeah.
So I use FreeSpoke, and so that's how you're able to get back into the web archives, into the Wayback Machine, and access some of those sites, where people were exposing what they were finding, or showing the injury with their kids, like learn the truth about Gardasil.org.
Right.
You can find that on the Wayback Machine on the web, but you have to use, I use FreeSpoke, like I said. It's an objective search engine, and it won't filter out. It doesn't censor. There aren't too many of those around now. There are a few, but I stopped using Google a number of years ago. They've got contracts with big corporations all over the world. They did have a contract with Merck, and so, they're just a huge database machine. So that is part of, real world research.
Yeah, and you look even at a Bobby Kennedy Jr. in how he has been being attacked.
Correct.
For saying, listen, there is some controversy going on over here. We need to discuss it. Let's discuss it. And then he is seen right away by Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren, or some other ones, as a conspiracy theorist.
Correct.
And it for people who are really interested in figuring things out, you know, I have this statement, Rick, please tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I want to know the truth, so tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Then that's a discussion you can have. But when you call somebody a conspiracy theorist, right away you lead the conversation into a direction that is equal to calling somebody a racist.
Yeah.
Or calling somebody a fascist. Or, you know, calling somebody stupid. And you go like, well, I don't even know this person, but I just call them stupid.
Yeah.
It makes it very difficult to then step out of that and say, no, let's take a look at the facts. People even on TV like to watch the controversy because it is good for views.
Yeah. Well,
and it doesn't always bring you the truth, because at the end you're lost and say, what can I still believe over here? And I am hopeful with somebody like Bobby Kennedy involved, and some of the people involved in his departments, and the NIH and the FDA and the CDC, that hopefully we're going to start seeing some change that is really going to benefit every citizen of this country, not just the few that want to make up the rules. I think that is one of my concerns.
Yeah.
We all have a right. We're born with a right to be healthy.
Yeah. Correct.
And for many of us, and luckily you and I are at an age where the vaccine schedule was not that busy yet. You know, we had a few maybe.
Yeah.
But now it has ballooned to like 70 different vaccines. With we don't even know what all the ingredients are until you're 18 or beyond. And we don't know, once you start putting it in inside your skin, you just do not know, based on the individual, what effect it's going to have long term.
Part of the controlling the narrative is part of how you maintain a market share. So when I first started doing this, I was talking to a friend on the phone. He said, "Is it an anti-vax movie?" And I was like, was the first time I'd heard that term, and I was like, "What does that mean?" I hadn't heard it before. It's like, it was a name. It was like a pejorative, like calling someone that. And then, so it comes down to dehumanizing people. If you dehumanize a person, you invalidate their opinion, and you can invalidate them.
Right.
It's what, we say racist language does. It invalidates the person.
Right.
It dehumanizes them. That's what it's
bullying.
The Nazis said that Jews were spreading disease. That's how they dehumanized them. They weren't human.
Correct.
That's how you control a population, and that's how you take power, is you spread distrust. You dehumanize your enemy. You create language that dehumanizes them. You get people to use that language, and you've got this great tool, because then you can drop that word and completely negate them and say, "Oh, that's an anti-vaxxer. Oh, okay, I can move on. I know what they are."
Yeah, exactly. I already know what they're going to say.
I know what they're. I know who they are.
Yeah.
That's how the powers of this earth can have controlled people forever. Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi publicist for Hitler, his propaganda said, if the lie is big enough and you say it often enough, people will believe it. So, that's kind of a credo that kind of gets passed down, into history.
And on top of that, you have a situation you talk about in your video, 50 cents a dose.
Yeah.
You talk about this lady who is head of the CDC,
Yeah.
who then comes on TV and says that there is a connection between one of the vaccines and autism.
Yeah. Julie Gerberding.
Yeah. And the next thing is she is taken out of the CDC and she becomes head of research
At Merck. Exactly.
So that is also when they often talk about revolving doors within these organizations. I do hope that the current administration is going to put a stop to that.
Yeah.
That you don't have these people just keep rotating chairs and stay in the game.
Yeah.
Not like be out of the game,
Right.
Musical chairs.
Yeah, I know.
They literally always have a chair.
Yeah.
And they get more money to quiet them down.
And you bring that up, so I should explain the reason why it's called 50 cents a dose is because when they added Thimerasol to the flu shot, it reduced the price of production by 50 cents per shot. So it was a budgetary decision because it made it cheaper to use so that would be a multi-dose vial. So they can use one vial to give like 10 people shots.
I see.
So they have to put the thimerosal in there as an antibacterial because the needle keeps going in there and air can get in there. But if they use a single dose vial, single dose vial, they wouldn't need to put the preservative in there.
I see.
So, and that would be a much purer product. But that's like, no, we'll cheap it up a bit.
Yeah.
Put some mercury in there. And mercury has a historic record of human tragedy. If you read the book about Lewis and Clark, Undaunted Courage, in there's a very telling line. It's like most everybody in the expedition died at an early age, most probably because of their use of mercury. Because they took these mercury bombs and they would use it for infections and, whatever. Because mercury was used, it's been used in medicine for a long time because it kills, it's an antibacterial.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's anti-human too.
I see.
And they used to use it for, syphilis in Europe, and everybody's hair would fall out. And that's why the judges in England would start wearing the wigs.
Oh, they would still look authoritative.
Yeah, because their hair would fall out because a lot of them had STDs and they were using mercury to kill the STDs, but it would make their hair fall out. And so that's how the powdered wig kind of came into fashion because, these people were all just kind of participating in debauchery. And, so mercury it's kind of been a plaything of medicine for a long time. Very attractive because it kills bacteria. And, it was also used in the lumber industry. So they would spray it on the bark of trees to preserve lumber. So some of the early children who were diagnosed with autism had family members who worked in the lumber industry.
Okay, but where did they find the mercury?
I don't know how they processed that.
Because it seems like a mineral then that is pretty abundant.
I don't know how they processed that or how they fabricated that. And then, hatters, you've heard of a Mad Hatter. I interviewed Michael Belkin in there. He had a band called Mad Hatters because people who made hats, they used mercury to
I thought his band was called The Refusers.
Yes, it was The Refusers.
The Refusers.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
But one of their songs was Mad Hatters. I can't quite remember. But so people who made hats would go crazy because they were working with mercury.
I see.
And, it's an industrial, part of that industrial revolution. They're working with chemicals, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And just making people sick. And then they'd be sick in crowded conditions, and then they'd get measles. And they'd have no clean water, no clean sewer, and then they'd really get sick.
Yeah.
And all these toxic industrial chemicals. And so, all those deaths from these childhood ailments occurred during this industrial period where people were huddled together. And that's talked about in Dissolving Illusions, the book. She talks
Susan
about
Humphreys.
how people, all these children working in mines, children working in factories, sleeping all huddled together, and many families in a little hovel, and no clean water, bad sewage.
Yeah.
And so you get anything, and it takes you down.
Yes.
So now we've got clean water, we've got great living conditions, which is demonstrated by that graph that Dr. Thomas Cowan talks about. It's like we cleaned things up. You stop having horses poop in the streets.
Correct.
The curve goes way down. Illness
You have
goes.
soap.
Death goes soap.
You have good soap.
Soap. Yeah.
You have clean water.
Yeah.
You have instead of outhouses that can be all kinds of infections.
Yeah.
You have indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
Those are all things that have contributed to it. I do want to ask, for those who listen to this video, watch this video, and say, yeah, we are very concerned about vaccinations. You brought up the name Bill Gates and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they have had issues in Africa and in India, and you started talking about it, and I interrupted you. Can you please continue that story?
Well, I kind of stopped following that, but he was kicked out of India for a while, and he was also using, we talk a bit about it in the film, the OPV, the oral polio vaccine, was used in the U.S.
Yeah.
And they stopped making it because it was giving people polio. And so,
isn't that something?
Yeah. So they went with a different version of it, but Gates, to my understanding, snagged up all those extra doses and took them to India and was distributing them.
And then what happened?
And I will read a little bit about what happened there. This is from PubMed.
PubMed is an NIH, National Institute of Health website.
This is a government website.
Government website where the only thing that are being published are double-blind and placebo-controlled.
Yeah, and they publish. Anyone can go onto PubMed and see what the government is chatting about.
Exactly.
And this is also an example of how the headlines can totally mislead you, and how there's no honor among journalists or reporters. It's pretty pathetic. Yeah. So the title of this article is Polio Program. Let us declare victory and move on. Sounds pretty optimistic.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's great. We're having success. So this is only like one paragraph.
Yeah.
But in that one paragraph, it states, while India has been polio-free for a year, there has been a huge increase in non-polio acute flaccid paralysis. In 2011...
What is flaccid paralysis?
It's basically, paralysis. You lose function and control of your legs. Okay. It looks like this. It looks like polio.
Okay. Wow.
It basically looks like poliomyelitis. Yeah. What we assume would happen to people that got polio, and polio is 98% asymptomatic. By the way, if you get polio, you might not ever have any symptoms at all. But anyhow, there were an extra 47,500 new cases of NPAFP. Clinically indistinguishable from polio paralysis, but twice as deadly. The incidence of this was directly proportional to doses of oral polio received. So they gave out 47,500 doses, and they got 47,500 cases of paralysis. So that's like batting 1,000, right?
Wow.
And that is from PubMed. And it's from the National Institute of Health.
Yeah.
So Bill Gates had a big hand in getting those doses into India. Part of what he does is, he is a drug marketer. He's kind of a profiteer there. He moved into that. And, way back when he declared the decade of vaccines, it was a big headline, which I talk about in the film, because he decided that's where he's going to put his investment.
Yeah.
And he said he invested $1 billion and he made $10 billion. He said it was a pretty good investment. Yeah. So, he creates a foundation, which was in response to his antitrust lawsuit. As we forget, he was taken to court and fined for antitrust violations because Microsoft was in big trouble. Right after that, he created the Bill and Gates.
Yeah, they were talking about, he was stealing secrets from other companies and stuff.
Yeah, so right afterwards, it's assumed to improve his reputation, created the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and went into the business of public health as another avenue for income.
Right.
And so he invests in these products, distributes them, and you create foundation, you create organizations to distribute, sell to governments, and it's a business. And a lot of people, so when you do export something like that to a country which has malnourishment as one of its big issues, you talk about vitamin A.
And sanitation problems.
And you start hitting their immune system with these products, and all they're having is rice. Maybe they've got rice and some vegetables, but they don't have
curry.
Yeah.
Turmeric. Should be good, but...
Yeah, and it will knock them out.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good balanced diet, if you have like a real limited, dietetic platform, you're going to be susceptible to a product that's going to whack your immune system that your immune system has not seen before. You're compromised.
Yeah.
That's part of what malnutrition. Part of that paradigm.
It said also in your movie that the Gates Foundation partner, forced it. It was a headline in a newspaper that came out. Gates Foundation partner forces vaccine on Malawian children at gunpoint and arresting parents who were resisting. So...
Yeah.
I mean, it says it all, what you need to know. They wanted to force the vaccines on these Malawian children in Africa. I think it was Kenya.
Yeah, Malawi.
It was in Malawi. I thought it was a tribe, Malawian tribe.
But there were issues in Kenya too. But this is,
and then you literally forced these kids, if they were running away, they literally would grab the children at gunpoint.
Yeah, they cornered them, forced them into a church, cornered them at gunpoint, and forced them.
Yeah.
And some parents refused, and they threw them in jail.
And then what happened is this whole group of women, I think a lot of them were women, are all infertile. Unless that was a different one. But I heard that his foundation has been either Malawi, Kenya.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody who was vaccinated has become infertile.
I heard that too. Yeah, I heard that too. So you bring up another really interesting kind of side note, is that, did I mention that the company whose name rhymes with jerk?
Didn't talk about it yet.
So there's a pharmaceutical company whose name rhymes with jerk.
Yeah.
And they went into, I believe it was Sierra Leone, to introduce a new measles product. Gave no informed consent, didn't really tell them what they were doing, but it was an experiment with a high titer measles product, and it killed 20% of the children in that village. So subsequent to that, it became kind of an issue for people who are distributing these products. They would get shot. So tribal people if people were going around, inoculation crews, it became kind of dangerous because they became targets of shooting. Right. So villagers were like seeing their kids die or get paralyzed. Yeah. So if you're coming into my village to poke them with that, I'm going to shoot you. Yeah. And so the press here was like, they have these tribal superstitions. They're afraid of science. They're afraid of progress. It's like, no, they saw you come into the village next door. They saw you kill a bunch of kids. They saw you paralyze a bunch of kids. You're coming in, they're going to shoot you because you come to mess with my family. There's going to be a repercussion for that. Yeah. So it was a problem. And the press was like, the superstitions, they just don't understand our miracle that we're going to bring to them. Yeah. So, and this is, there's been a lot of crazy stuff. There's a film called Medical Racism. if people are interested, super interesting about, you know, the kind of exploitation that goes on in Africa, in third world countries in regard to these companies that, you know. And so, you know, you talk about this childhood schedule, you know. So you've got children under 2 years of age getting all these products.
In combination.
In combination.
Yeah.
Many of them weren't designed to be in combination. So here's the big question. Where are the children that were the test subjects of this? You know, when you release a product, you do a study and you get volunteers, right?
Yeah.
To test your product.
Yeah,
You see them all over the place. You don't want to volunteer for this study? You want to be part of this trial?
Yeah,
Where are the children that, you know, were part of the trial of these products that are being distributed to all these kids under 2 years old?
Where are they?
There are none, because it's not ethical to do a medical experiment on an infant. So what they did is they would get volunteers to get their kids, like 4 or 5 would be the youngest you would put in one of these trials. You'd have to get a parent to sign off on that, of course. So you get a kid that's 4 or 5 years old for part of this trial, right? Their brain is already developed. Their immune system is already developed,
Right.
because they're 4.
Yeah.
Their brain has gone through its big push to grow up. Its immune system has gone through its big push. It's looking pretty good. It's like 4 years old. You know, it's those first 2 years of life where everything is cooking.
Yeah.
That baby's learning, growing, the nerves, the immune system, it's all cooking. It's all growing.
Yeah.
So you know, there's no test. So they do the 4 or 5 years old. And if that kid has any conditions, they boot him out. If that kid's got an allergy, no, it can't be part of the trial. We want a perfect child, super healthy, no issues.
I see.
If anybody's got anything, no, he's not part of the study. We want super babies to be part of the study. Because if you've got a condition, you know, geneticists will say the genes load the gun, the environment pulls the trigger.
Correct.
So they want these super kids part of the study. As soon as they get it passed, it's like, look, it was looking really good. Let's give it to babies.
Right.
We don't know what it does to a 6-month-old, but let's do it. We tested the 4-year-old, got to be the same, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, they say the genes load the gun, the environment pulls the trigger. So, you know, they keep all those kids who've got any kind of possible issue out of that, because this can be an environmental trigger. It's like smoking. You know, if you have an oncogene in your lung and you smoke, it'll turn on that cancer gene. You'll get lung cancer. But you hear stories of old women who've been smoking their whole lives. They're 95 years old. They're living in a cabin in Ireland. And smoke their whole life. They don't get lung cancer because they're not genetically predisposed for it.
Right.
You get somebody else who does have a little gene issue. You smoke, it'll turn on that gene. You know, turn on that gene. That's, as I understand it, what epigenetics is about. We have these genes, but we can turn them on by our behavior. You know, if we don't participate in the bad behavior for our health, we got a much better chance, you know, of, you know, staying healthy. But if you've got a gene in there, like a rickety old house, you take out 2 supports, you know. That's your genetic foundation. That rickety old house may stand forever, right? But if you back a pickup truck into it with those 2 support beams gone, that little shed's going to tip over.
You bet.
That's kind of how our genetic makeup is.
Yeah, that's an interesting analogy.
You know, it's like if you don't mess with it, you might be fine. But, you know, you can turn on those genes with exposure. And that's part of what this is about. And speaking of which, so there is that, you know, in that, there's that MTHFR genetic mutation.
Correct.
You know, one of my interviewees talked about. So apparently you have a genetic mutation which prevents your body, as I understand it, prevents your body from producing glutathione.
No, folic acid.
Folic acid.
Folic acid. So it is folate that has to turn into folic acid.
Okay.
And there is an enzyme that helps in the breakdown of that folate.
Okay.
So folate is found in food,
Yeah.
but it needs to, inside the body, it needs to turn into what is called folic acid.
Okay.
That enzyme is called methyl tetrahydrofolate,
Okay.
MTHF.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you do not have that enzyme, your folate stays high,
Okay.
doesn't convert. Now you start having folate problems.
Okay.
And so they say you don't have that enzyme, so you have methyl tetrahydrofolate
Okay.
reductase. You don't have
Yeah.
that enzyme. So that is what it is. And that can cause all kinds of, but go ahead.
Yeah, and it can
issues.
it also, as I understand it, prevents your body from detoxing.
Detoxing, it's hard on the heart
Okay.
because we need folic acid for the heart.
And
And we need it for
Okay.
for the mood. It really affects the brain. Kids can be very moody and
Okay.
hormonal problems. Yeah.
as I understand it, about 17 to 20% of the population have this genetic mutation.
It's growing.
Oh, I believe it.
I think it's growing
Yeah.
because I am in retail and
Oh,
I
yeah.
see
Yep.
people come in more and more about the fact that they have MTHFR.
Okay. Yeah.
It is something I'm worried almost
Okay.
as something like celiac.
Yeah.
Where so many people thought, well, yeah, gluten allergy,
Uh-huh.
but that the celiac is just growing more and more exponentially.
Yeah.
That more and more people actually have issues with gluten, and we mentioned it earlier
Okay.
in the interview that when you start affecting the genetic makeup and the DNA, you can start and you end up with allergies in your system to
Yeah.
a casein, milk protein, and to a gluten or to
Okay.
a nut.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And that percentage also it reflects how many kids in the U.S. have learning disabilities. Huge amount, 20% of kids, more than that now, have learning disabilities. I mean, my son has been in special ed, and those classes are jam packed. Schools in their special ed classes are packed. Every school. And, and I'll just add this one brief thing. My two older daughters. So when I started doing this kind of research into thimerosal, it reminded me, did I say that yet about my daughter?
No, I don't know.
I realized that when I started looking at this thimerosal issue, it sparked a memory. It's like, oh, my daughter was in that study.
Right, that's you
Yeah.
didn't. I know it's in the video.
Yeah.
But I asked you why your
Yeah.
daughter was involved in that, and we haven't talked about
Yeah,
that.
so they used, I got the thing. I remember getting the thing in the mail. It's like, use my daughter's medical records in this, thimerosal? Sure, whatever. I was younger. So blah, blah, blah. Time went by, and I eventually remember getting a letter that said, yeah, we found there's no, correlation. Thanks for letting your daughter be part of the study.
Right.
And so when I was doing this, I remembered that my daughter was part of that study.
Yeah.
And then, Thomas Verstraeten was the lead researcher. And he, said that there was no getting around it, that, thimerosal, he could not make it go away. The correlation between thimerosal and autism, it could not make it go away.
Wow.
So they added one more study to that group of studies to throw off the data and say it's inconclusive. And
that is what you were talking about.
Yeah.
That you mentioned about a hospital.
Yeah.
The third hospital got involved.
Yeah.
So this Thomas Verstraeten,
yeah.
he was the lead researcher. Now, who was he working for? Was he working for a government agency?
Yeah, I think that was the FDA.
Okay, so he was
And-
tasked with that research.
Yeah.
And all the research showed that there was a correlation
Yeah.
with autism and thimerosal.
Correct.
And then they said, you got to add something else in it
Yeah.
to muddle the study a little bit, because
Yeah.
otherwise we're going to be in deep trouble.
Well, they added another hospital, I think was called Harbor Pilgrim from
Yeah.
the East Coast.
And why did that mess up the numbers?
Because they had really bad records, record
Oh,
keeping.
okay.
And it was a mess, a statistical mess. So
see.
it threw all kind of chaos into the other data, and it didn't show the same conclusion. So
So they said it was inconclusive.
inconclusive.
I see.
And the headlines in the Seattle Times was like, study proves finally that vaccines don't cause autism. When you read the fine print, it was like, oh, 2 of them did. The third one muddled it, so never mind. And that's part of this whole, journalistic hiccup. It's
Yeah,
just
this is a problem.
nobody does their job. Number one, because you rock the boat, you're not, you're going to be fired. All the pharmaceutical ads. It's a pretty easy correlation. If you're 70% of your revenue is the pharmaceutical company, you're not going to bite the ankle of your owner. You're going to just not report it.
That's right.
That's
right. Another interesting quote in the movie, 50 cents a dose, is this one doctor says, you may think that having beautiful hospitals in your city is a sign of wealth, but it's definitely not a sign of health. Yeah. Because if you have a healthy population, you probably wouldn't have that many hospitals. Yeah. But you need the hospitals because so many people are sick. Yeah. And so as we talk often about sick management, you have those who, in the times in which we live, with, again, clean water, more food choices, healthy food, but also bad food, but you have more food choices, more cleaner beds, sheets, all that stuff, soap. We have all the ingredients to live a clean and healthy life. So why do we have so many hospitals and doctors? Yeah. Because people are sick. Yeah. And why are they sick? Well, then we got to go back. And that is kind of what this interview is about, but also your movie is about, and why so many of the so-called alternative media have tried to do studies and bring out studies that show that we are sickening really our young people. Yeah. And that we are affecting our education, and that we're actually, with all the brain damage that has been stated and proven in our children, and I'm not saying kids are stupid. There's a lot of young kids who are super smart. Oh, yeah. They're very quick, very alert. You have conversations with them, you go like, this is really good. But still, in general, when you look at studies done on IQ levels and on test scores, it shows that they have to adjust the tests in order to have children do common sense problem solving. Yeah. And now you go, okay, so we're manipulating the education to give people a false hope that everything is hunky-dory. Yeah. We are affecting medical schools with money and pharmaceutical companies who are promoting their products and bring these enormous brains of mush and contort it into a brain that is now all of a sudden saying that everything that medicine has created is excellent and not debating anymore any controversies. And now here we are left as population trying to solve the problem why we're so sick. Yeah. And then when you come up with something such as homeopathy has been around for 250 years. Yeah. And homeopathy was the original, well, let's say of the modern time, because people have medicine and trial and errors have been around for 5,000 years. But homeopathy was a medical doctor, Dr. Hahnemann. He literally said, in Mother Nature has to be the remedy for the disease. And he started looking at the body and started taking certain poisons. Yes, correct. And in very, very, very minute doses. Yeah. Giving this to people to create the antibody effect. Correct. The body responding like, oh, what is this? Like you said earlier, aluminum, what is that? We got to get rid of this. And the body starts to respond to it. And with homeopathy, you start working with very minute amounts. Correct, I mean, we're talking micro parts of microparts that still in the body triggered a response for the body to start the healing process. Yeah. So the confusion for many consumers of homeopathy is the names of the products. They don't know what the names are.
Yeah.
So they say, well, and a medical doctor will look at it and say, people have brought homeopathic remedies to their doctor, and doctor say, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
And so I can, it's not good for you. Now, you look at all their medication, it all has very complicated names.
Yeah.
But if you look at something like Rus toxicodendron, RHUS, toxicodendron, you go like, well, I don't know what that is. Well, it's actually poison ivy.
Yeah. Okay.
And so what do you use it for? Well, for pain. And you use it for a skin infection that may look like a poison ivy.
Okay, yeah.
You take the tablets, it starts to heal it.
Yeah.
If you take something like Apis mellifica, Apis mellifica is bee venom in an homeopathic dilution.
Yeah.
So when do you take it? Well, when you got bit by a bee or a wasp or a bug bite, you can take something like Apis mellifica and you take the little pills under the tongue.
Yeah.
And sometimes within 10, 20 minutes, the swelling goes down.
Right. So Dana Ullman, who is one of the
he is on the video.
premier
he's a
homeopaths in the world.
Yes.
Yeah, he calls that resonant healing. So it's like those microparticles, and he compared it to a shark in the ocean can smell like a drop of blood.
That's right.
A mile away.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and he said that's how our immune system works.
Reacts to homeopathy.
It can detect that little teeny thing and start to respond to it. And you talked about the paradigm. So as a cameraman, I worked on all kinds of projects. And in the 90s, I did a project for the largest hospital in the Northwest. And so it was going to be distributed on VHS tape, to everybody in the hospital, because they had their number one problem in the hospital was death by accident or misdiagnosis or mistreatment. So the number one cause of death in that hospital was accidents or mistreatment.
And accidents produced by
the staff.
Oh, wow.
Because there are so many people.
Yeah.
And you have so many people coming into a room. And this was, you had paper charts, accidents are happening all the time, infections, blah, 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 misdosing. So that was the biggest cause of death in the hospital. And at the time, it was a big setup. We had a teleprompter, and the surgeon was talking about it. And at the time, I thought, wow, this hospital is really messed up. It's like, wow, this is a big problem.
You bet.
And then I thought, that's just them. But then I kept learning later on down the road, I would find, that's generally, that data is consistent with all hospitals. Like the number 3 cause of death in the U.S. is medical mistakes and accidents.
And that was a Harvard study
in
2016 that was published by the British Medical Journal.
Okay, exactly. And, another...
And you know how many people we're talking about?
Yeah, like 300 to 400,000 people.
Every year.
Every year.
Just in this country.
Yeah, so it's big. And, I was doing another thing for a cancer drug. I think it was a anti-nausea medication. And we were interviewing these 4 people who had all gone through traditional cancer treatment. They all had something removed.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, these people are going to be really hopeful, and they got, their cancer's gone. They're going to be like excited.
Yeah.
But it was the most depressed group of 4 people I've ever met in my life. They were very sad people. One guy had a colectomy. I didn't even know you could do that. Take out your colon. And he was an elderly guy. And another gal had radical mastectomy, and and she was in the chair, and I'm setting up the camera, and I'm doing stuff, and I'm lighting. And the producer goes out of the room, and she looks over her shoulder as he goes out, and she says to me, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't do this. I would do a natural method. I don't care if it killed me. I would never go through this again.
Oh, wow.
And, she had a bandana on because all her hair was gone, and she had both of her breasts removed.
Yeah.
She was a very sad person.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, holy cow. I wasn't ready for that. But it was just kind of an eye-opener. I thought, oh, these people are going to be really grateful that they've gone through these things and it's out of their system. But it was a new chapter of life that none of them were really very excited about. It was like part of their soul had been taken.
If you look at people taking care of people in their own communities for 5,000 years, right? It started somewhere in different continents. What Western medicine, modern medicine, has tried to do also in about 125, 150 years, they really try to control disease. History has shown that when people are dealing with discomfort, ailments, disease, they have tried to figure out what in nature, because that was all that was available, could we possibly use to be an antidote to this? I mean, they wouldn't use the word, but it was all, what can we do to help people feel better?
Yeah.
And that's why you would have like the witches, and you would have the medicine man, and you would have the wizards and the alchemists who would create products that when applied would show a reaction. And it wasn't always successful. But there was times when it was, because we have learned Western medicine is trying to take complete control over it, and they don't have the depth. They don't want to learn the depth of what human history has gone through. So I have tried to explain to people, if you take a pie chart, let's say a pizza, and that is 5,000 years of history, of medicine, trial and error, helping bodies and minds heal. And you take a tiny little sliver out of that, that is 150 years of modern medicine. Somehow, modern medicine says, we got it figured out. The way I'm changing my mind about that pie chart is that you have 5,000 years that started in the center and that expanded outward on this planet over different continents. And now you imagine a ball that is all three-dimensional. And now put a sheath around it, a thin layer that covers up what's inside the ball. That thin layer is modern medicine. It's trying to contain the history and say, we take it from here. We got it figured out. What you see on the outside, that's what you're going to get on the inside. And that is not exactly the same. And we're noticing it, talking about vaccines, whatever is the effort to try to eradicate diseases, or whatever is the effort to simply make money, whatever is the irresponsible behavior of certain companies who ended up then going to a government and complain. This is what I said earlier. What's going on with these companies, they're literally caught with a hand in a cookie jar. And so when a child gets caught with a hand in a cookie jar, first thing it will do will lie. I didn't, and it wasn't my idea, and it was my brother, or it was so-and-so who did it, or the lid was already off. You try to come up with excuses. They realized that their excuses didn't help. So they use their monies to go into the government, start telling the government, and in this case also President Reagan, to sign this bill to make them immune from court cases where it was all about immunizations. They try to become immune. And so the bill is signed that you will be immune from court cases, but that didn't automatically translate into we are immunizing. We are not immunizing you. That is still a battle that's going on. And it is very, very sad for all these families who, with the best intentions, trust their physicians, who quickly say, all of you can take this and all of you will be fine.
Yeah.
Not knowing anything about the individual,
Yeah.
the individual struggles, the individual's past, the individual's eating habits, sanitation, you name it.
Yeah.
They literally put them all in the herd.
Yeah.
That's why they talk about herd immunity.
Yeah.
They want to immunize everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody goes in the same program, and we are all individuals with our own fingerprint, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And, getting everybody to participate is kind of important for eliminating the control group is a big point. So the control group is, that is the group of people that have not had the product. So when you get as many people to participate as you possibly can by coercion, by threats, by no school, you
Losing your job.
yeah, you want to eliminate the control group, because when you can see the people who haven't participated and their robust health compared to those who have participated and their terrible health conditions, it becomes very striking. So there's a movie called Blackwater. I know we got to wrap this up. Blackwater talks about, Mark Ruffalo is in it. And it's about, this company poisoning the groundwater in this community. And, it's a true story. And that utility ended up paying, millions and millions of damages to the community. Because it was very obvious that people in that groundwater were getting sick and getting all these cancers, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And they said there had never been an epidemiological survey that was so conclusive that, that this was causing their sickness. They haven't done that with these products. They've done no double blind placebo-controlled studies on them. And they want, the one thing about homeschooling kids, they're highly successful. And, the youngest graduate from the University of Washington was an 18-year-old homeschooler.
Yeah.
They do super well because, the secret of homeschooling is they don't have to participate in this program.
Public
Their kids do
education
super well.
And public vaccination. Yeah.
Their kids do super well.
Yeah.
And they want to eliminate those control groups because it becomes a stark observation, a stark example of those who aren't participating, how healthy they are. And that's why they say, these are dangerous pockets. These are dangerous pockets. We need to get in there.
Yeah.
And because disease can start there. No, health starts there. And you want to eliminate that control group because it'll muddle, it becomes pretty clear, that
there are issues that are unresolved and they're trying to cover up.
Yeah, when you see a group that hasn't participated in that program and their health is stellar, 4 to 5% chronic disease compared to 55% chronic disease in the participatory population, it's like, I see,
Well, Rick, it's a discussion that can go on for many, many hours.
Yeah, we've probably gone on too long.
No. I feel this is a topic that affects pretty much 95% of the population.
Yeah.
And we can dig deeper into Gardasil and into the flu virus, flu vaccine. We can talk deeper about COVID because it is so fresh on pretty much everybody's mind. I would like to do, even though was a long interview, but I would like to do at some point a follow-up on new things that we have learned and get the opinion of some other people. I know Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt is a medical doctor who has been a doctor for more than 50 years.
Yeah.
Who has
Around,
seen,
getting close, 48 years now. Yeah.
Who is somebody who has seen autism change and rise in his world, being a medical doctor, and the changes have automatically inspired him to say, wait a second, as a scientist, I need to understand what's going on over here. So even you and I can continue to talk, but I want to thank you for having the guts to say, I do what I no, but this is, you're a filmmaker, you're a cameraman, you're a father, you're a spouse, you're somebody who lives in the community, who is engaging with other people, and you are somebody who is interested in this topic, and you thought, what is the best way to do this? Is what I'm good at is making a movie, and you made the movie 50 cents a dose. There is not one moment in that movie, and it's an hour and 57 minutes long, where I felt we shouldn't talk about this, or I didn't like the guest, or I didn't like the quotes. How you break up all these interviews with different people. It is very engaging, very inspiring, very educational. And I want to thank you for that. And I really, I invite all of you to look it up. You can go on Vimeo.
It's no longer
It's
on
no
Vimeo.
longer on Vimeo. Okay,
Yeah, but
so
there's a link on the website.
on
to
the
watch it
website you can
online.
people can also purchase the DVD if they want to. It's $12, and if you want to buy
Something
more
like that.
copies, it's a little bit less if you buy more copies for family members. But I just highly recommend that. This is not a promo for the video. It is just that for me, knowing Rick, I was inspired by this video to say this more needs to be said about it. And even though the video is 10, 11 years old and some of the information dates back even further, this video is still current because the people who lived through that video in those 6 years it took Rick to make, many of them are still alive and are living with the consequences of either having children who died from certain vaccines or who have been traumatized by it and still live with that trauma. So I want to thank all of you for watching today. I hope you made it this far and that you maybe take some, it's kind of a call to action, that if you can get your hands on this video, this DVD, 50 cents a dose, and watch it and become educated and become a spokesperson for yourself and for people who are dear to you. This is something I invite you to do. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Rick, again for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. And I just hope that the conversation will continue, that your own research will continue to become the best that you can be. So I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. And we hope to see you in another episode of Health in Focus with Jacobus. All the best.
All right, thanks. Visit healthinfocusnow.com.